All right, Hornet fans, welcome back to this week's edition of the Hornet Football Flashback. And today we're looking back all the way to September 25th, 1999. The Hornets defeat Montana State 41-10. And in that game, Charles Roberts rushed for a then school record 277 yards, 4 touchdowns, 28 attempts, 9.9 yards per carry. And guys, I know it's been a while, but let's get your memories on what you guys remember for that game. Me personally, I was there, and Charles, no offense to you, but those 200 yards can all kind of blur together. It happens so often. But we'll start with you guys and go around. Chuck, what do you remember about that game?
Man, I'm be real honest with you, man. I don't remember anything about that game. You know what I mean? Like, it's been so long and so many different games in between. I know we did a lot together. Rushed for a lot of yards together. So just like you said, it is kind of like a blur. It all kind of meshes together because we did it so often. 277 is an odd number, but, I guess it's still something to be proud of.
No question. I guess, but first of all, I should introduce our group that's here today. It's Charles Roberts, obviously All-American running back for the Hornets, NCAA record holder, CFL Hall of Famer. And then the majority of his offensive line that was in front of him, Terrence Wagner, the center, joining us from an airport in Lafayette, Louisiana right now. Tim Conley from Southern California. Doug Hollngsworth. Doug, I don't even know where you're at. You can tell us here in a second. Jon Osterhout, the head coach at American River College. And then Lonie Paxton, I believe down in SoCal as well. And so, guys, first of all, thanks for joining us. And I'll open it up to any of you guys. Who remembers anything about this game other than Charles going for 277 and was the start of something magical that you guys had going that season? Go ahead.
I know at 9 yards to carry, he obviously had some great blocking up front. But certainly I don't remember a lot about the game. I remember the home game. I remember more the course of the week in practice. And I remember Coach Volek just getting after us on like a Thursday or Wednesday in regards to our practice habit and effort through the course of that practice, and basically told us that if we continue to practice like that, we have no chance of winning that football game. And I believe a few of us went into Coach's office and told him that we were more than ready to take on this opponent. And obviously it showed out well on Saturday with, the entire offense's performance and what we did defensively.
Yeah, Holly, you got any thoughts on that one?
Well, I was going to say, I'm glad Chuck said it first because there's a lot of cobwebs in these old brains these days. And, I don't remember the specifics of the game, but I remember just being on a roll and being so confident and just loving our offense and loving, putting blocks down for Charles and just watching the numbers go up every week. And that's what I remember being part of the whole thing is just the machine that we had going. And it was just an honor to be part of all that,
Yeah, you guys talk about that. 24 players. There's been 24 200-yard games in school history. 11 of them belong to Charles Roberts. He had 16 straight 100-yard games, and then obviously the 200-yard games. Terrence, going to you, what made this group so special, this offensive line? How'd you guys come together as a unit?
I really think that just came with, John being the leader. John and Chris Kelly. Not many times you see the tight end really be so in tune with the offensive line. So, really just not having just 5 guys being in tune, but that's 6. And I think we can all say that we looked at him more as that hammerhead offensive lineman than a tight end just going out and getting passes. And when he did, and he made a catch, he really made us feel like we're a part of it. But, it really did start with what John brought that old school hammerhead mentality. And, with me being the youngest, he just brought me on board to continue that tradition. But it really was that mindset that we were still hammerheads. And, we were following Mike Black and John Giesick. And we really kind of took that approach. And I just really remember from the Montana State game is, we weren't really supposed to win that game. Montana State was kind of the up-and-comer to challenge Montana. And, that was really one of those games that kind of set us as being a top-tier team and a top offensive line.
Lonie, we'll go to you. You obviously played on the offensive line as well as on special teams. Talk about what Angus McClure brought to that group and playing for a head coach in John Volk that was a former offensive lineman and kind of the building blocks they gave you before you started your career in the NFL?
You know, Angus and Volk really challenged us every week. And, you know, I know from, you know, Angus was just one of the guys. He was one of the, you know, always competitive in the meeting rooms and on the field. You know, Montana, just as a, you know, those two teams, they always had a stigma with them that they were going to come in and roll over us. And, you know, we always looked at Montana as a gauge for our talent. And every time we competed with one of those two teams, it really, you know, gave us an understanding of where we're at. And that game, you know, specifically, you know, the Hammerheads worked our ass off, and we always wanted to see Chuck just running right through these holes. And, you know, you got some big guys up front, and that little man in back was just, you know, juking and sprinting through those holes. So, you know, playing next to Holly and Terry, and then obviously opposite, you know, our leader, Jon, it was a real competitive nature all week in practice. And I, you know, our defense put it on us, and they made it a struggle throughout the week, trying to give us the best look possible. So, you know, it was a complete team effort. You know, we take pride in the offensive line and giving Chuck those holes, and like Holly said, you know, Chris on the end there. So, really proud of that performance.
Tim, we'll go to you. Obviously, you were one of the newer guys to the group transferring in. And I've always had to ask you a question. I know that there was a legend that when you came in the week before, I believe, the St. Mary's game, and originally it was Angus said, oh, we're not going to play him until maybe the second half. And I think it was the second series you came into the game. And the legend that was always told is that you still didn't have a pretty good understanding of the playbook at the time. You'd been on campus for like 3 days, and that Jon, I think, was the guy next to you pointing to the person that you were assigned to block. And that was basically how you knew the play for that series. Is that true?
That's very true. I mean, I think that everyone else has said it, but Jon Osterhout was definitely the leader of that group. And when I came in, I had just left Oklahoma, and I literally within 3 days, we've got a game. So I've had 3 days to try to learn a different system. And, you know, I didn't think I was going to play at all, really. But I got in, and, you know, things started gelling. And thanks to Johnny O and the other guys, especially Johnny O, basically telling me every play who got a block. You know, I had enough football sense to understand what to do from there. So I had fun for the first time in a long time. I hadn't had fun. I had a lot of injuries at Oklahoma and some other politics, but I was happy to have fun again with the guys.
Yeah, we'll go to Chris Kelly, the All-American tight end who's joined us here. And Chris, we talked about, or one of the recaps a couple of weeks ago was the anniversary of your game at Montana, which was a historic game, 4 touchdowns for you in that contest. All of them in the second half and overtime. But did you enjoy catching the ball more or blocking more as a Hornet?
You know what? I think, first of all, thanks for putting this together. I got chills right now going down memory lane with, you know, some of the closest people I know. So, you know, that particular game was special, but I'll just tell you, I love hitting, man. I just love hitting, and I feel like I'm part of the Hammerheads. I owe all these Hammerheads big kudos for keeping me engaged and part of the family. So, but at the same time, there's nothing better than throwing a juke and running over guys. So I'm right in the middle, but I love hitting, man. That was one of my passions.
Yeah. Chuck, we'll go back to you. You had a decent freshman year and then exploded that sophomore year. At what point did you know that you could be a special player?
Probably towards the end of the freshman year, and then moving into the second year when I knew that I was going to get an opportunity to start from the beginning. You know, when you have a group of guys, an offensive line that, you know, take pride in, you know, opening up the lanes and making sure that I had room to run, you know what I mean? It makes it that much easier to you know, gain that confidence, knowing that, you know, I wasn't going to be hitting the backfield. I was going to have lanes to run through. You know, Johnny O pulling around on the power plays, backside cut blocking, you know, getting the guys down on the ground. So I knew that I was always going to have a good opportunity to pick up, get a good head start. You know what I mean? And I'll say this, I played, many years after Sac State. I played a couple of seasons without these guys because they're a little bit older, most of them. No offensive line I've ever played in front of took as much pride in, blocking, opening up holes. None of them, really wanted any type of, I wouldn't say accolades, but they didn't want any type of, special treatment. They went out there, put their heads down and opened up those holes. So that was really appreciated. Helped me get up to the Canadian League and continue from there.
Yeah, and you're up in the Canadian League, and it's obviously a strange situation where you and Ricky are both up there playing against each other, and arguably the best running back and the best quarterback in the league. And how strange is it to have your former teammate being one of the go-to guys in that league, and you guys representing Sac State in the CFL?
It wasn't strange. Ricky had the talent. Just so happened that during our time at Sac State, we were a run-first type of offense, so he really didn't get to flourish like he did up in the CFL. CFL is more a wide-open game, throw the ball a lot, takes a smart, quarterback, and he truly was that, and he went up there and showed what he was capable of. Again, the teams that we had was, kind of that lunch pail type of team. We're going to pack the lunch, go in with our heads down and grind it out, and that's what we did.
Jon, I'll go back to you. Obviously, these guys have all talked about you being the leader up there. And obviously now you've coached a lot of places, the head coach at American River. You've had great success. Did you know at the time as a player that coaching was something you wanted to get into? And did you start kind of by leading that room?
Yeah, I knew from a fairly early time frame. I mean, going back to my Pop Warner youth coach, Mike Smith, and then I was fortunate to be involved with my high school coach, Bob Vukolovich, and then I had tremendous mentors in Angus McClure, Bob Barnes, John Volek. They kind of guided me in the direction that I wanted to go. And I'm thoroughly enjoying every single moment of being able to coach. I mean, I get paid to make a difference in young men's life. And that's all we're really trying to do, is to impact them and guide them in a proper way to ensure that they can improve their quality of life down the road. And, this experience here and reconnecting with some of the former players. I mean, I haven't seen Charles or talked to Charles in a while, and Tim and I kind of got on a Zoom a while back and reconnecting with Terry and Doug and Lonie and Christian has just been unbelievable. And it just speaks volumes to what we did during our time frame there. I was extremely fortunate when, coming in as a freshman and being shown the ropes in regards to the past history of the offensive line play. And I just tried to continue that tradition here with the group of men that we're on the Zoom call with today.
Yeah, and I'll open this up to really interview, with the exception of Tim, who obviously came from Oklahoma, but the rest of you guys were kind of overlooked by the bigger programs. Did you guys feel like you played with a chip on your shoulder at this level? Anyone can take that.
I mean, I did, I can take it, but, for me, coming from Southern California, and, I had a lot of exterior dilemmas with troublemakers or, drug users or people who were just kind of guiding me in a different direction. And Sac State came in and offered me my first scholarship. There was no chance I was going to say no. And then when I went up on my recruiting trip and met Jon and the guys, and, it was home from the beginning for me. So, just like what happened at the Patriots, the first one that came in and gave me a chance was the one I believed in, and it turned out to be the right move.
Yeah. How many times during your career with the Patriots did you try to convince Belichick that you could still play on the offensive line?
I mean, on a minute by minute basis, I was still trying to tell myself I could be a long snapper. So that was, playing offensive line was just something I dreamed of. But I'd always sit there and practice. And I actually, for the first couple of years, I really kind of took offense to it because I was looked at as like a kicker, just over there standing and watching practice. But, my role was my role. And I tried to do it as best as I could. And I tried to take a hammerhead mentality to, every single play, treating it as my last.
Yeah. Doug or Terry, when we asked Charles when he knew he could be good, but when did you guys realize that you guys had something special with both the group of the offensive linemen and with him running behind you? Was there a certain moment, a certain play, a game that comes up to you guys?
You know, I knew it was a special group when I first got there, and I'll echo what Tim Conley had said, where, you know, I had come from another school as well, and being at Sac State made it fun again. And I loved playing for Angus, and I loved playing with this group of guys. And, you know, it was something that I just didn't see other places and at the other school I had been at, you know. And so that was what was really special about this group, is that you loved playing football with this group. And you just couldn't deny that up and down. It was awesome.
Yeah. Terrence, how about you?
You know, I mean, I'd really say it came from my recruiting trip. My little,
Go ahead.
My recruiting trip, when I met Jon, you know, really there was a dynamic from the get-go. It was really a mindset that started with Bullock, and Bullock really pushed, do you want to be a Hornet? And so I think right when you signed that paper and said, I want to be a Hornet, it was just a completely different mindset. And really one of the things I really remember is being a redshirt freshman. And Jon being older, he redshirted the same time as me. So I got to really learn from him and kind of be his pup. And, you know, it seemed like that first year I was there, we were all setting up and had the mindset that something was going to be very special when we were all playing together. And
We lost you there for a second.
Just on board, then having Conley on board, it just really, all the pieces just came together. And I just really felt it when I was a redshirt freshman that something was going to be special the year following.
Tim, what are your thoughts? Anything that jumps out at you as like the first time that you thought this could be a record-breaking offense and led by you guys?
You know, I'm going to say this. Angus McClure said something to me the first game that you mentioned that St. Mary's game. I'm going to go back to the year, the 98 season. And he said, the field is the same size. And it really woke me up. I was very depressed at that point. I had all intentions of being a great player at Oklahoma. And as soon as I got injured, and so when I came to Sac State, I didn't know what was going to happen. I was just like, well, I'll just finish my career. And if I play, I play. I don't, I don't. But when he said that to me, it just like ignited that joy back inside. And being able to play with these guys lit a fire under me. And injury or not, I was going to play. And, you know, Johnny O pushed me quite a bit. We were right next to each other. And you know, you got to have, as a tackle, you got to gel with your guard all the time, especially on combo block, right? So it really just was energizing to be with this group and to have Angus as our offensive line coach and Bullock as the head coach. And just, there was it was just fun, a lot of passion playing with this group. And it wasn't about all the hoopla that I was dealing with at Oklahoma. You know, there was all these folks coming around, agents and other folks, and it was very distracting sometimes. And this was more, let's just go to work. And that's what I loved about playing in the 2-year college was it was let's go to work. And it's the same thing. It was the same thing at Sac State. So I really appreciated it about this group. It was just really special. And then having Charles there, who, you know, I'll say we take credit for blocking, but boy, he sure did make us look good when he ran that football. So.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many memorable plays, but the one that jumps out to me, obviously, I go back to that Portland State game. I think it was 3rd and 43, and we decided to run a draw and gave the ball to Charles, and then you broke it. That game was wild. And you had so many. Charles, was there one run in your career that, at least as a Hornet, that stands out to you as your favorite?
Well, I think for sure I remember that one. Again, it was a lot of runs. I think where were we? We were home when the 400-yard one happened, right? And I think they showed the run on ESPN. I dove into the end zone at the end of the run. I probably didn't need to dive, but kind of showboated a little bit. And the dive kind of hurt because I'd never really done that before. But I was feeling myself at that point. But that for sure, that 3rd and 43, that was the one right there. Like, who would have thought that you could take a 3rd and 43 to the house? You know what I mean? So I'll always remember that one. I kind of remember everything about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. John, anyone you remember by him? Any play in particular?
I mean, it was in 97, obviously, that was a redshirt year for me, but that's when Chuck really came onto the scene. I mean, he was down at scout team just shredding us defensively, and I think Lou Patrone and Volek obviously took notice, but, his first 3 or 4 games, or he was down at scout team as a redshirt initially, and he was just making us look ridiculous on the defensive side of the football. And at that point in time, we hadn't won a Big Sky Conference game through 96 and 97, and then they lifted Chuck off of his red shirt and gave us a huge shot in the arm and got us, a Big Sky, first Big Sky win in the history of the program. And then you could see through the back end of his freshman campaign, what his abilities were like. And then the coming out party, and I remember during the offseason said, Chuck, you're going to be able to rush for 2,000 yards next year. And sure enough, he goes for 2260 in 98, backs it up with another 2,000 campaign in 99. And, certainly as Tim mentioned, and as everyone has, I mean, to have a back there that can make you look really good when things aren't blocked up clean. And, for us to be able to give him windows to be able to run through and lanes to run through, if we could get him to the second level, we know there was an opportunity for that ball to get in the end zone. So, obviously a tremendous career, and you saw the start of it very early down at scout team.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously the game we'll talk about last year and wrap it up is the 409-yard game against Idaho State. Charles touched on it in a minute, but you guys, this was an era where it was, stats weren't readily available at all times. Did you guys have any idea that you were getting close to that number? I mean, it felt to me in the press box that he went from 200 to 300, I think, on like 2 carries, and all of a sudden you end the game at 409. But you guys up front, did you guys have any clue it was a 400-yard rushing performance? Anyone can take that.
I don't, as an offensive lineman, we're never really concerned about stats. I mean, we're just trying to put points on the board and put our defense in a good position. I do remember after the game, we celebrated our ass off. And I remember we were at the house I was living in. I just laid on my bed. My body was just complete trash. And I was like, if I feel like this, I can't imagine what Chuck feels right now. Just running for all those yards and taking hits and, being on the bottom of piles of me and Ollie and John and Conley and stuff and Terry. So, it was just we celebrated, we had fun together, but it was never about the stats. It was about, doing something together and building those blocks for the future.
Yeah. Holly, what do you remember about that game?
Honestly, I remember the after effect when somebody put a really cool video together, and it was sort of our first time in a positive way to be on ESPN. We had been on previously against Eastern Washington a few years previously for some not good stats. So it was really just a cool experience to come from a smaller school, and all of a sudden after a game you're seeing yourself on SportsCenter. With Chuck diving into the end zone, it couldn't be any better. I'll remember that video forever. I've got it somewhere on my computer. I watch it every once in a while.
Yeah. Aside from John, any of you guys still involved in football, coaching your kids or anything?
I watch a lot of football.
Oh, man.
No?
I'm doing partnerships in football. So, I wouldn't say heavily involved, but in my new role, kind of, I recently was at GoPro, but then I left for COVID reasons, or they had layoffs, and now I'm a consultant, but still deal with NFL teams. Actually just got off the phone with the Detroit Lions today. And my football experience helps. You walk into those meetings, and that it's instant credibility, regardless of accolades. It's like you're a team sports player, you get shit done, you kind of, have that process behind you, and and you're honest up front with yourself and with the partner. So definitely involved, but on a different scale.
Yeah. Professor Conley, how do you use your football experiences as teaching classes?
Well, at Santa Monica College, I am, as someone who's coached at the college level, at the community college level and at the high school level in the past, it was important to me to establish a relationship with the athletic department. So I work with all the coaches, the football coach, the basketball, soccer, et cetera. And I ask them always to have their students come in my classes. It's a way for me to sort of, I call it coaching in the classroom. I don't coach on the field anymore, but I coach in the classroom, and I can give them some support, especially as they're preparing to move on to the next level. And I can tell them things that I did wrong, things that I did right, some things to pay attention to that I've learned over the years. So definitely that's what I do in terms of coaching. I want to say something really quick about that 409-yard game. The week before that, we had played Eastern Washington, and I came out of that game, and there were some things that went down, and I sort of had been troubled by that for a very long time. And then last year, I was invited to, 2 years ago, I was invited to go to San Diego State to go watch them play, and to have all of these guys embrace me as a brother took away a lot of pain that had been sort of buried inside of me for a long time. And it meant a lot. And as I'm talking about it, I'm almost tearing up. And that 409 game was special because after that game and the struggles the week before, I came back and I played, and we had a good game. And we as an offensive line had a great game, and Charles obviously set records. So it was really special for me to be able to come back. That's the great thing about football is, you next play, you bounce back. And so I'm grateful to the group here, to Terry and Lonie and Jon and Doug, and we call him Holly. I still call him Holly, and Chuck. I'm just grateful to these guys and you, Brian, for putting this together. So thank you.
Our thanks to Jon. Jon did a lot of the digging on the last minute to set this up, and it's been a lot of fun. And I'll thank you guys for giving us your time. I'm going to stop the recording now. You guys can stay on and talk for a little bit, but thanks for coming back, and thanks for being Hornets.
Appreciate it, Burger.